everyone, and welcome. I haven't been doing enough on my YouTube channel or in a lot of other places, including developing courses. One of the promised courses is the big Plot Dude's Guide to Story. So I wanted to update you on what's happening with the Plot Dude's Guide to Story. Now, if you're not into listening to long videos or stuff like that, then there's a blog post that's linked below. You can check out my Substack. This post is over there, all that kind of stuff. This is a long one, and I'm going to kind of put this information everywhere. But I think it's an important topic to tackle. And it's important for us as professionals to be open about some things that are happening in the world today and have been happening over the last couple of years. And I've watched a lot of authors do this. I've watched a lot of authors just try so hard and run so fast and then burn out. And then what happens is they struggle with things that, like, we really want to do them. Like, we really want to write more books and put them out there. We really want to do things, but we've kind of lost our way. And the reason we've lost our way is because we're in an industry that wants us to be machines, that wants us to do more and do things faster and write more words and produce more books and just produce more, 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 and more. Except that that model doesn't work anymore, and it's about to break down, I think, in a big way. But let's talk about, in my case, what happened with me. Now, as most of you know, the term the plot dude comes from my love of the Big Lebowski and kind of my posit that the philosophy of the dude and the subsequent religion called Dudism, which I'm ordained in, and the Church of the Latter-day Dude kind of mirrors Buddhism and gives us a foundation for morality that should be practiced. And in some ways, the way we should live our lives. And I'm actually working on a book that's going to tell kind of my story and talk about that in a little way. Okay. But in my case, that includes the occasional F bomb and cuss word. Since we're on YouTube and I don't want to get banned, I'm going to try to keep this one as clean as possible. But just letting you know that if those things happen, sorry, man. Anyway, so with that caveat, let's go ahead and get started. First of all, let me tell you what's happened over the last year. So many of you know, and I don't want to really rehash this part of things, but a little over a year ago now, I left Plottr, which was it was really my plan. I did a lot of teaching at Plottr. Plottr was a huge part of my writing journey, my writing life, but also my education journey. I was using it as a tool to educate people about a lot of things about writing. The problem is that when I got engrossed in that software and that philosophy, I lost my own way of doing things. People had expectations for me, and I wanted to live up to those expectations and things like that. So when I left, it really threw me for a loop because I was, there was a lot of hopes that I had pinned on my continued partnership with that particular software. And it did some damage to me and to some friends of mine. But at the same time, when we came out of that, I feel like I came out of that with a new perspective and a new attitude. So, my question was, where do I go from here? What do I do? So I partnered with Jana Brown and CJ Anaya. CJ and I wrote a book together, and we attempted to kind of reignite the fire that we built. But with the Plot Geek Academy, it was kind of a separate entity, that type of thing. But we found that keeping up with all of that, along with the fact that we needed to make money right away and kind of recover our careers and recover our writing careers and stuff like that, that just wasn't enough, and we weren't able to scale it as fast as we needed to. And slowing down was just a very challenging option. Okay. So I approached a couple other companies about working with them in education, but none of those things really panned out. I'm really grateful that that didn't pan out because although I wanted to work with writers and I want to keep educating them, I want to be able to do it my way and have more control over what that looks like. And the reason I want more control over what that looks like is I want you as an author to have more agency about the way you do things, about the things that you do. The solution, which we're going to talk about AI in a minute, but the solution to being human in a world of AI is quite simply just to be more human and be more human to one another. So there are things that I did not do related to my exit and Plottr that I could have. And the reason is I feel like that we're called as people to help each other along the way and show unreasonable kindness to people, even those who don't deserve it, and even those who wronged us in a big way. Now, that doesn't mean you let people walk all over you, but you don't have to be mean about saying no. There's nice ways to say no. But I also need to make a living, a sustainable living. And while I was with Plotter, I let a lot of my writing career slide in favor of helping others with theirs. So the result was that I fell behind on every writing goal I'd ever set for myself. I felt like a corked bottle of champagne, and then the break from Plotter just really shook me up, right? I was a corked bottle of champagne, and then all of a sudden I got shaken up. And what happens when that happens? Well, the cork wants to pop, right? So I finished the project with CJ, one I'm very proud of. I'll link to it in the comments. It's called Unreadable, and you should definitely read it. And I wanted to get my other books selling at the same time. Okay. And I needed to figure out where I was going in related to my educator identity. I had this huge course that I created called SEO for Authors. It's out there now. It's available. It's really cool. But SEO has always been a sideline for me apart from stories, right? Story is the most important thing to me. But right around the same time that all of this happening was right around the same time that generative AI was blowing up. So what the hell is up with AI? Well, if you're a writer and you've made it this far in the video, you'll understand exactly what I'm talking about. Generative AI was labeled, I mean, as it's called now, it's really a giant LLM and machine learning model that's really got a great way of it, creating predictive text. You can do all kinds of really cool things. But what we were told as writers and authors was that the careers we'd built and our jobs were over because AI can write books, it can edit them, and even aid you in publishing them. And this was good news for those who like the idea of having written a book more than the actual process of writing one. You see, I'm in love with drafting. So I don't want AI to draft the book for me. I want to draft it because I want it to be mine and my words, right? But those who prefer revision to drafting, this is a great tool. You can make a zero draft out of nothing and do it very, very quickly and efficiently. Okay. Or if you want to make a quick buck publishing as many, especially nonfiction titles as possible, as quickly as possible, and just sell some of those from time to time, and you really aren't invested in the topic as much to really write it yourself, and that's what you want to do, that's fine. That's a way that you can use AI. Now, for some of the rest of us, I see this as a potential tool. It's not to replace writers or artists, but it's to handle some of those administrative tasks we don't love to do, to free up our time to do the things we do love. And for the most part, that's still my stance with AI. I want AI to do some of that busy work for me so that I can do less and spend more time writing, not so I can take on another thing, yet another thing that I wasn't doing. And I know if you follow me on social media, you're going to say, well, you're doing this solitaire thing and releasing all this audio this year and all this other stuff. And you're absolutely right that I am. But in some ways, in some other areas, I'm slowing down. And I think that's part of the key of being human is just taking your time and slowing down and doing the things that you love and care about. Now, if AI takes care of some of your marketing and some of those other tasks that you have, then that can free you up to do the things that you really do love. Okay. Just understand, companies and a lot of other people just became obsessed with AI over the speed with which it could do things. Now, what I want to point out is most of them did not become super impressed with the quality of what AI produced. We always knew that it was less quality than you're going to get from a human writer, for instance, when you're writing a blog post or something like that. AI can write one for you. Almost always it requires human editing or intervention, or it's just good enough, but it's not as good as what a human would produce, right? For the most part. And the reason is, without a human master to guide and shape the output, AI puts out some pretty horrible stuff. We still need people. Okay, your prompt and the way you put things into AI is super important, right? And even in those administrative tasks, it can make mistakes. Automation is one thing. Getting AI to move data from one place to another and analyze certain kinds of data, it does really well at. But to get it to summarize and analyze long form text, fiction or nonfiction, without error is still a challenge. There are software companies that have tried it. There are some good attempts out there, but nobody has ever gotten the feedback from one of those AI tools and gone, this is way better than anything I've ever gotten from a human editor. It's just not true. It's not there yet. We're talking about how fast it does it, not how well it does things. So it took us a little bit to figure that out. The ethics of AI and the legal debates are still in debate. Like the LibGen lawsuit, the Anthropic LibGen lawsuit, if you're not aware of that as a writer, you probably should be. Um, so there's some legal issues there. And then there are some companies that bet the farm on AI and they're rolling back those decisions, realizing that what they were doing was producing content really fast or producing whatever they were doing really fast, but with mistakes in it. Because as long as we're dealing with flawed humans, we need flawed humans to work with, figure out, and empathize with them. Okay, machines talk to machines really well. So if we're analyzing data, awesome. Machines do that really well. But humans mess up the whole process. It turns out if a machine is trained on human data, which is flawed, then errors come out in the output. Who could have figured that out? Garbage in, garbage out. Anyone? So how does all this relate to the plot dude and to the plot dude guide to story? Well, first of all, I had to figure out how to relate and use AI as part of my marketing, writing, and editing process. It wasn't as easy as you would think. There's advice and hate on all sides. There are ethical and legal concerns. There are concerns of what readers want to see and what they don't want to see, and how that all works together. I think that we're coming to a place of balance. And again, I think that the ethics and legality are still in question, so some of that balance may change. Okay, but I think it came to some reasonable conclusions. But a lot like the first half of a novel, what most of what was happening over the last year was that I was reacting to things that were happening to me rather than being proactive. And I think this was happening to a lot of us. I think we were responding to what was happening with AI, responding to what was changing in the publishing industry, but we weren't just saying, okay, and having that midpoint and then turning around and being proactive and taking strong action in a positive direction. The only way I was doing that, the only area I was doing that in was writing. I was not doing that in the education area. I wasn't doing it in any of the other areas of my career because I didn't know what I was doing next. I was just reacting, whatever was coming at me. Okay. That's what happens to your character in the first part of the novel. It's reactive for the most part. Those first scenes are your character getting beat up a little bit, like, oh, this is coming at me. I got to deal with that. I got to deal with that. I got to deal with that. But eventually they have a turning point. And I think that many of us, including me, have reached that turning point. And here's what it is. It's all about the writer's life. The reason I started all this in the first place, writing, freelancing, editing, book coaching, educating, has always been exactly the same. My motive behind it, my why, has always been the same. The thing that matters the most to me is story. I love to tell stories. I love to help other people tell their stories. I love to shape stories to be the best they can be. That's all. It's simple and it's complex at the same time. So when I lost sight of my own story, I needed to find that groove again. Collaboration has always been my jam. I love working with other authors, but in the past, I've been burned by collaboration. The collaboration with CJ coming out of all this was one of the best things that happened to me. Then there's been since then there have been collaboration with a bunch of authors on a true pulp anthology that was a very successful Kickstarter. Then Vincent Zandri and I are releasing Book Blasts, which is another really successful collaboration. But for a little while there, I wandered bouncing off projects, software ideas, ideas of re-releasing, actually using some of my backlist rather than letting it sit there. And some of that's coming. I do promise that. But what happened was in the midst of still trying to help others and find my own way, I found that the best solution for me was to take a step backward. So I simplified stuff. I've been trying to live up to an image. And in that process, I lost myself and my own way of telling stories. So when I started this Plot Dude's Guide to Story to help people find their way of telling stories, in some ways, what I was doing was finding my way of telling stories. Okay. So what I did was I ditched the cool writing software. I still like Reedsy Studio. I think it's like Scrivener on steroids, but most of the others that I tried lost my interest. I found a new plotting software that I really like. It's called Novelio, and what I primarily use it for is for my world building and my mapping afterwards in revision. Okay, because what I found was too much planning at the beginning was hurting me. Okay, so I went back to Scrivener as well. It's my go-to writing software. It has been for years. I even used to teach classes about using Scrivener, although not officially. But I went back to using Scrivener as my primary writing software and Word as my primary editing software. Why? Because I needed to simplify. I need to go backwards, right? Now, there's still tools that I use. I love Pro Writing Aid. I love Fictionary. There's tools that I use, absolutely. But once I went through all this and I figured out my plotting style again and the way I love to write stories, which is kind of halfway between a discovery writer and a plotter, and now that I've kind of found my own way, I can fully develop the course that helps you find yours. So here's the rub of it all. I'm working actively on making this course what I really want it to be. I tried a couple different course platforms in the process, but I'm going back to the one that's worked for me really well so far, and that, wait for it, I own. So I'm not building on rented land. I'm not building my courses and my webinars and all those things on somebody else's platform. I'm building it on my platform. Okay. There are other courses to be had. There's the big one on SEO that I mentioned, although that one will likely just be updated going forward with best practices. We'll talk about generative engine optimization for authors, but it won't be my main focus because SEO has always been a sideline from story for me anyway. So I'm happy to help you with that and help you with SEO because that's one of the ways that I can help you tell your story. But there are more classes like how to build an author website and the famous goal, motivation, and conflict course, which will be coming back soon, and 3-act structure and a revamp of the sleuth's journey, no longer focused on Plottr or any single software. It's going to have a variety of softwares that you can choose from. I'll be doing some free webinars and even a plot on the spot from time to time on live on YouTube and at various conferences. Those are all be super fun because we get to put our writing, plotting chops into practice, but we get to do it together and develop a community together. And it makes it really, really fun. So what's happening is the dude again. For a minute there, the plot dude was a little bitter, to be honest, and a little lost and looking for a new direction in my personal life, my writing life, and other areas. But the dude cannot keep acting very undude for very long. So if you need anything in the writing realm, I probably have some options for you and I can probably help you, or I know someone who can. Yep, I have to charge for my services. There's times when I'm going to do things for free, but hey, I can also be very reasonable. And if price is the only thing keeping you from working with me, please reach out and we'll see what we can work out. I can't do everything for everyone as much as I would like to help you all for free, but I can't do that because I still have to maintain my life, as insignificant and small as it might be outside of writing. Okay. Now, if you join my community and you follow me, please keep in mind that being unreasonably kind is one of the tenets that I'm going to hold dear. So chill out. Nothing is messed up here. We're all finding our way together. The plot dude abides. I take comfort in that, and you should too. We'll talk to you all again really soon.